Thank you very much, Mr. President. It's always nice to have so many opposition members in the chamber for adjournment speeches. I rise today to support Australia's free trade agreement with China, an agreement that has the potential to provide remarkable economic benefits for the people of New South Wales. In 2013-2014, exports to China from Australia amounted to $108 billion, while imports from China amounted to only $52 billion, a 2-to-1 trade favour for Australia. And in New South Wales, annual trade with China amounts to $30 billion per annum. China is our largest trading partner for agriculture and resources, our most valuable tourism market, and our greatest source of international students, and increasingly an important source of investment into New South Wales. Recently at Sydney Airport, I was astounded to see some of the figures in terms of the growth in Chinese inbound visitors to Australia, with a compound growth of 10% per annum, with new markets opening up several times a year for both Australian aviators and also Chinese aviation. So we see from China a vital partner, but a partner which is growing in strength. So that would lead you to wonder why people would be opposed with a free trade agreement with a country with a population the size of 1.357 billion, a potential market of 1.357 billion in comparison to Australia's 23.13 million. The benefits of free trade with China are just astounding. But when you come to the Federal Labor Party and Bill Shorten, you shouldn't laugh too much because, of course, we thank Luke Foley because Luke Foley has called it out and said that the New South Wales Labor Party sees the benefits with this Australia-Chinese free trade agreement. And we thank him for being one of the reasonable, sensible voices on the Labor Party because for so many years, it has been somewhat of a bipartisan view when it comes to free trade and the benefits of free trade between the Labor Party and the Liberal Party at the federal level, that free trade benefits us all. But unfortunately that compact is being broken now by Bill Shorten and the CFMEU, his puppet masters, where we're seeing what is endangering Australia's economic growth and the economic growth of New South Wales. Because it is unfortunately from the CFMEU a xenophobic campaign that preys on prejudiced fears and baseless economics. It is something which is a zero-sum fallacy that states that any one person's gain is balanced by another person's loss. In short, the foreigners took our jobs. This is a fallacy for a reason. As Milton Friedman put it, no exchange takes place unless both parties benefit. And that is why both Australia and China see such benefit in this free trade agreement. That is why, as Adam Smith has put as well, just to tick off another one of the great ideological thinkers, that it is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own interest. Does this free trade agreement benefit China? You better believe it does. But does it benefit Australia? Of course it does. When you've got a 2-to-1 trade weight, you see that the value of trade for Australia and our economic opportunity is just unsurpassed. We will see a progressive end to Australian tariffs on Chinese imports, so Australian consumers will benefit. The 5% tariff on Chinese manufacturing exports, electronics and white goods will all be eventually removed. And it is unquestionable that New South Wales businesses and consumers will benefit from lower prices and more goods. And in our financial services industry, New South Wales is determined to continue promoting financial services, and the chapter will allow Australia growth in this sector. China is committed to improve market access across banking, insurance, funds management, securities, securitization and futures sectors. In fact, the New South Wales government was successful in leading the nation, having Sydney become an offshore trading hub for the Chinese currency, the RMB, and 13% of Australian companies now trade in RMB. That is, in fact, the biggest market outside of Asia. And in our agribusiness sector, which is one of the areas which is most likely to benefit from this China-Australia free trade agreement, China purchases more of Australia's agricultural produce than any other nation. In 2013-14, trade with China came at $9 billion in the agricultural sector. It is no secret that the chapter will provide Australia with a real advantage over other global agricultural businesses and competitors, including the United States, Canada and the European Union. Chapter also rebalances the trade advantages that Chile and New Zealand free trade agreements have provided since they've inked them with China. And in New South Wales, beef exports increased 136% during the 2013-14 financial year, and our farmers are set to benefit even more. This is a free trade agreement that is just too big and too significant to endanger, and I call on the Federal Labor Party, Bill Shorten and the CFMEU to cease their campaign against this free trade agreement and to embrace it as sensible Labor oppositions and governments have done in the past. Thank you, Mr. President.